Hello, students. Welcome to all of you. I hope that you all are fine, students. Today, I'm going to start the last chapter of half yearly course, which is chapter 9. And the name of the chapter is Interdependence in Living Beings, Plants, and Animals. So, this chapter is important. Why? Because in this chapter, we will study that how the animals and plants are interconnected with each other and how they depends on each other for their needs, for their developments, okay, and for their growths. So let us read this chapter. Then we are going to do the given exercise for revision in the copy, and then the short and the long answers of this chapter. Okay, so watch this video with focus and attention, so that when I ask any question in between the chapter, then you will be able to give the answer. Okay, so as I have told you, in this chapter we will study the dependence between the animals and the plants. So let us start this chapter. What this chapter is saying, it says plants and animals are living components of the environment. Air, soil, water, sunlight are non-living components of the environment. Okay, because if we talk about the plants and animals, so they have life. Okay, plants and animals. When we talk about animals, animals means humans and all the animals which exist. Animals includes human also, like human beings. Okay, so plants and animals, they are the living components, but on the other hand, air, soil, water, sunlight, these are the non-living components of the environment. All living means animals and plants things depend on each other, and non-living things for their survival. Okay, this is called interdependence. So interdependence is what? Interdependence is something when we depends on one another for our basic needs. It is called interdependence. For example, like children are dependent on their parents for their basic needs. Suppose you want um, book, you want copies, you want pen, and so many things. So whom do you ask? You ask to your parents for the money, and they give you money, and then you buy those things, or they buy those things for you. So you are dependent on your parents. In the same way, all the living components means plants and animals are dependent on each other for their basic needs. So this is called interdependence. Okay, now living components of environment. So as I have told you, plants and animals, these are the two living components of environment. So we will study here more about them. Okay, we know that plants and animals are the living components of environment. Another living component of environment are microorganism. So microorganism is what? These are the very small, very we can say tiny, okay, uh, organism. We cannot see them with naked eyes. They are so small that they cannot be seen with naked eyes. If we want to see them, we have to take the help of microscope, such as bacteria and fungi. Okay, so now let us talk about the plants. Plants are different types, from herbs to big trees. They are found everywhere on the land and in water. They remain fixed at their position. Okay, so all these characteristics of plants we already know. Now plants produce their own food by the process of photosynthesis. Like human also, plants need food. And how do they make their food? By the process of photosynthesis. Photosynthesis is what? It is a simple process by which plant prepare their food with the help of carbon dioxide, gas, water, and sunlight. Okay. And what the other things plants need? They need water, they need minerals, they need carbon dioxide and sunlight to make their food. Plants get these things from non-living components of the environment. For example, water, they need water, plant need water. So from where they get water? With the soil. So soil is a non-living component. If we talk about the minerals, minerals are also obtained by the soil. So soil is a non-living um, component of the environment. So we are saying that living things also depends on the non-living components for their food and their basic needs. Okay, they get water from soil and carbon dioxide from air. Now if we talk about animals, so there are different types of animals. They are found on land, some are found on trees, some are in air, some are in water, some on soil. So they do not remain fixed at a place. Like plants, they remain fixed at a place, but animals do not. They move. Okay, they move from one place to another. They move from one place to another in search of food and shelter. Animals cannot make their own food like plants. Plants make their own food, but animals cannot make their own food. What they do for their food? They eat plants or they eat other animals as their food. They need water and air to live. They breathe in oxygen and breathe out carbon dioxide. Okay, so these are the two main components of the environment. I have talked about the um, plants, I have talked about the animals. Now I have told you the third component of our environment, which is microorganisms. So let us talk about microorganism. Micro means very, very, very small. Okay, so an organism which is very, very small is called microorganism. So microorganism are very tiny organism. They cannot be seen with naked eyes. They are found everywhere on the land. They are found in water, they are in air, they are even in our body also. Inside our body microorganisms live, such as viruses, bacteria, fungi, and so many microorganisms which are present everywhere. Most microorganisms depend on dead plants and animals for food. They release the nutrients from the plants and animals into the soil. So plant use these nutrients to make their own food. So as you can see that what the microorganism do, they depend on dead animals and dead plants. And what they do, they decompose those animals dead body or dead plant body, and after decomposing them, they break break them down into the nutrients, different nutrients, and these nutrients are used by the living plants. Okay, so you can see that in this way also plants depend on the microorganism. Now we will talk about the dependence of plants on animals. Dependence of plants on animals. Now, if I say dependence of plants on animals, so what does it means? It means how plants depends on animal. How do plants depend on animals? So the first point is all animals breathe in oxygen and breathe out carbon dioxide. All the animals, okay, like human also, as we breathe in oxygen and we breathe out carbon dioxide gas. So plant use carbon dioxide gas to make their food by the process of photosynthesis. So in this way you can say that plants need carbon dioxide gas for the preparation of the food, and this carbon dioxide gas is provided them by the animals. So in this way plants depends on animals for the carbon dioxide gas. Okay, now second point is some animals help in pollination. Pollination, I have already, we have studied this chapter earlier, so you know what the pollination is. Okay, if there is no animal, like if there is no insect, so how, because all these bees, wasps, okay, all these insects are called pollinators. So if they are not existing in the environment, so what will happen? No process of pollination is going to be occur. Okay, so pollinators are very important for the pollination, and if there is no pollination, what will happen? No flower, no fruit, no crop. Okay, so in this way also you can say that plant depend on animal. Okay, now examples are insect, butterflies, honeybee, and birds. Now some animals help in dispersal of seed, for example human and other animals. So animals also take part in the dispersal of seed, so that um, which is also a very important for the growth of a plant. Okay, now the next topic is dependence of animals on plant. Earlier we have studied dependence of plant on animals, and we have studied that how does a plant depend on animal for their needs. Now we will study how animals depend on plant for their need. Okay, so first point is animal cannot make their own food. They depend directly or indirectly on plants for their food. Like we human beings, we need vegetables, we need fruits, we need cereals, we need whole grains. All these things are provided by plants. So we can say animal cannot make their own food. They depend directly or indirectly on plants for their food. Now animals need oxygen to live. They get oxygen from plants. Plants release oxygen during photosynthesis. Third, birds and many other animals live on trees. So trees provide shelter, okay, for birds and other animals. So in this way also animal depends on plants. So these are the some points. I hope that you have understood how plants and animals depend on each other for their basic needs. Now this is a diagram. You have to see this diagram carefully, because in this diagram what is shown to you, interdependence of environment, that how different components of environment depend on each other. Like as we start from sun, so as you can see, from sun this plant is getting um, solar energy, or we can say it is getting sunshine or the light. So what happens, you can say this plant is dependent on this sun, and with the help of sunlight it produces its food. Okay, and when it produces its food, so its food is now consumed by this human being. Also we can say that all these plants, this animal, okay, use water. Okay, and also plant, animal, and human being are decomposed by the decomposer, and decomposer produce nutrients in the soil, and these nutrients are then obtained by the plants. So as you can see, and if we talk about the airs, if we talk about the air, then everybody needs air. You can see every component, whether it is plant or whether it is animal or human being, every component needs air. Okay, so you can see, you can understand by this chart that every component of the environment is dependent on different, we can say, components, different components of the environment. So we can say that they are interdependent. Okay, now next topic is categorization of living components. So we, in this topic we are going to categorize, or we are going to divide into the category the living components. Living components, I again want to remind you, living component means plants and animals. Okay, so we are going to divide them in four sections. All living components in the environment can be divided into following categories. Number one, producer. Number two, consumer. Number three, scavengers. And number four, decomposer. So these are the categories of living components. Keep in mind, living components. Okay, now what are producers? As the name suggests, these are the components which produce something. Okay, produce means to make something. Now living organisms that produce their own food are called producers. Like those living organism who can make what those are plants, because animal cannot make their own food. So in this category, in the category of producer, which organism lies? Plant. Okay, like the it is mentioned further, all green plants are producers. All those green plants. Why green plants? Because this is also a very important point and very interesting point, that only green plants can make their food. Only green plants can make their food. Okay, that is why all green plants are producers. They prepare their own food by the process of photosynthesis. Now if we talk about the consumers, the second category, so consumers are the organism which consumes the food prepared by the producer. Means producer produce the food, and this food is consumed by the producer as well as the consumers. Okay, so the living organism that cannot prepare their own food, like animals and human beings, and depend on plants directly or indirectly for food, are called consumers. Okay, so all the animals are example of consumers. They depend on plant for their food. Consumers are further categorized into the following types. So these are the further categories of the consumers. So first kind of consumer is herbivorous. Herb means vegetable. Okay, so herbivores are the animals that eat only green plants or plant products. They are called herbivores. For example, cow, horse, goat, rabbit, grasshoppers. So only vegetable eating, we can say only grass eating animals are called herbivores. But carnivorous animals are the animals, uh, those animals who eat only the flesh of other animals are called carnivorous, like lion, tiger, snake, frog, and lizard. So these are carnivorous. Now the third category of the consumers is omnivorous. Animals that eat both plants and flesh of other animals are called omnivorous. Like those animals who eat both animals and plants. Okay, for example, bears. So if we talk about bear eat flesh also, and it eats honey. Honey is the favorite food for a bear. Okay, so it is omnivorous. And human being also, like we can eat both flesh and vegetables, so we are also omnivorous. Okay, so these are the three categories of producer sorry consumers. Okay, so I have discussed about the producers, then the second was consumers, in which there are three categories. Now I will talk about the scavengers. So let's talk about this scavenger now. The organism that feed on dead plants and animals are called scavengers. For example, vultures, termites, and hinds. So, students, these are those organisms which depends on the dead body. They eat only the flesh of the dead bodies. They are called scavengers. Like, have you seen the vulture? It is a bird which eats only the dead animals. Okay, so they are also very important for the environment, because they in a sense we can say they are reducing the dead bodies from the earth. So these are also very very important elements component of the environment. Now we will talk about the decomposers, the microorganisms that feed on dead remains of plants and animals are called decomposers. For example, some bacteria and fungi. So microorganisms like bacteria, fungi, what they do, they feed on dead remains of plants and animals, dead bodies, dead leaves, and they decompose those dead bodies into the nutrients. Okay, the decomposers break down the nutrients present in the dead or decaying matter into the simpler form, and they that get mixed with soil. Plants absorb these minerals from the soil along with water. And one more thing, the process of breakdown of complex organic matter into simple nutrient is called decomposition. So decomposition is a process in which the complex organic matter are decomposed into the simpler type of nutrients. Okay, now exercise for revision. Let us talk about the first question. Tick the correct answer. Which of the following are living component of environment? Plants. Yes, plants. Which of the following are living components? So plants are living components. Animals are living components. Microorganisms are also the living components. So the right option is all of these. Which of the following living components prepare their own food? So animals prepare their own food? No. Bacteria? No. Fungi? No. Plants is the right option. Okay. Which is not a correct statement about animals? They cannot make their own food. Yes, animals cannot make their own food. So this is the correct statement. But the question is saying which is not a correct statement. So they move one place to another. Yes, they move one place to another in search of food and shelter. They need water and air to live. Yes, of course, they need water and air to live. They breathe in carbon dioxide and breathe out oxygen. No, this is the right option. This is not correct because they breathe in oxygen and they breathe out carbon dioxide. Now fill in the blanks. Number one, cannot be seen with naked eyes. So microorganism cannot be seen with naked eyes because insect we can see them with naked eyes also. So microorganism is the right word here to be filled. Okay, now second, plants use to make their food by process of photosynthesis. So what they use, oxygen or carbon dioxide? So they use carbon dioxide to make their food by the process of photosynthesis. Third, the living organisms that can produce their own food are called, so the living organism that can produce their own food is called producer. Okay, producers are the living organism like all the green plants which can prepare their own food. Fourth, the organism that feed on the dead plants and dead animals are called scavengers. Okay, now the process of breakdown of the complex organic matter into simplest nutrient is called decomposition. So decomposition is the right option. Now circle the odd ones. So if we talk about the first question, goat, horse, rabbit and snake. So goat is herbivorous, horse is herbivorous, rabbit is herbivorous, but snake is odd because it is carnivorous. Yes. Okay. Now loin is we can say loin is carnivorous. Okay, so loin is carnivorous, tiger is carnivorous, frog is carnivorous, but bear is omnivorous, so it is odd one. Vulture, hyenas, bacteria, termites. So bacteria is microorganism, rest are scavengers. So this is the odd one. Okay, so this is all for today. Watch this video and do this exercise for revision in your copy. In the next video, in the second part, I will explain the next part of the chapter. Till then, thank you. God bless you, everyone.